You're listening to an archived Cabral Concept podcast. After listening to this show, check out the most up-to-date podcasts available at stephencabral.com/podcasts or search directly on iTunes. And now, welcome to the Cabral Concept, where board-certified naturopath and integrative health practitioner Dr. Stephen Cabral shares how he was diagnosed at the age of 17 with a life-altering illness and given no hope for recovery. It was only after studying and traveling all over the world did he discover how to combine ancient Ayurvedic healing practices with state-of-the-art naturopathic and functional medicine to fully rebalance the body and re-energize it with life. It's time to discover how to get well, lose weight, and finally feel alive again. And now, here's your host, Dr. Stephen Cabral.
Today, after I think 6 questions yesterday, it might have even been 7. I'm not going to go back and count, but it was definitely a record for the Cabral house call. And the nice thing is it didn't take any extra time. I was just trying to be a little bit more concise with my answers and also letting people know that I'm going to be doing full shows about their questions in the future coming up. So absolutely do stay tuned for those. I don't think I've done any repeat topics ever in 385, 386 shows, 387 today. So we're going to keep that going. And then that way there, what I can do is I can always point back to previous podcasts. So I typically don't point back to any before like 150 or maybe even 200, because that was kind of like the beginning of the podcast. And I was just kind of, feeling things out. Still, I think good information, but just maybe in a little different take. We'll put it that way. So looking forward to today's questions. And really after today, I'm going to be able to go back to be maybe doing like 3 or 4 questions per house call. And the reason is that, or they might be shorter, is that we've kind of gotten through a lot of that backlog. After next weekend, one more weekend to go, then we'll be back to really, really normal. So let's get started. First question today is from Tracy. She says, "Hi, Dr. Cabral. Thank you for all of the info. I was wondering how you feel about consuming coconut water daily. I try and drink a 16-ounce bottle of organic, harmless Harvest coconut water every day. Supposedly, this brand is the closest to the real thing. Does this count towards my daily water intake?" Question number 2, is it too much sugar at 28 grams? But since it is natural sugar, I feel it is okay. Question number 3, are there many benefits to drinking coconut water? Background, I do suffer from SIBO and many other intestinal and skin issues. Thank you. Okay, so let me see if I can answer this all in one fell swoop. Again, there is no one thing for every human alive. I'm going to give you some of the pluses and some of the minuses. One of the big pluses of coconut water is it is very hydrating. And yes, it can count as water intake. So yes, you can count that towards your half your body weight in ounces of water per day. Sometimes more, sometimes less, depending on how much you sweat, depending on your constitution, depending if you eat a lot of fruit, all of those different things. The good news about coconut water is that it's very high in potassium. So again, very hydrating for the cells. Cells need potassium. You need more potassium than the other electrolytes. But the other bad news is that coconut water is high in potassium. So if you're someone who has to deal with a lot of adrenal-based fatigue, chronic fatigue, your body's kind of stuck in that parasympathetic nervous system, well, potassium will push you deeper into it. Does that mean it's bad? Well, no, because parasympathetic nervous system is healing, but it could, after drinking a coconut water, you might feel exhausted. So, that's kind of an indicator there as well. And the reason is that potassium in coconut water isn't balanced by any real sodium. So you actually might want to do a pinch of sea salt in that coconut water to help balance the sodium to potassium. That's absolutely something that I would do. And are the 28 grams of sugar okay? They are not. So no, I would not consume straight 28 grams of sugar. So here's the thing. When I was over in India, especially in Kerala, in the south of India, coconuts, they are everywhere. Everyone will sell you a coconut for like $1. And what they do is it's very cool. At the side of the road, we would pull over, going from like clinic to clinic destination. I was talking about hospitals down there, studying Ayurveda, which Kerala in India is the birthplace of Ayurveda, and it's in the southwest of India. And amazing, absolutely amazing. I studied actually in a clinic in Trivandrum, and yeah, Trivandrum, exactly, that was it. And phenomenal education. Hilarious to try to find the clinic. I remember how long it took to actually get there, but we would stop for coconuts literally as water because it was better than drinking water that hadn't been treated. So you knew if you're drinking coconut water, you were typically okay. So Here's the thing, though, and just to finish my story, you would literally have these fresh coconuts, and then someone on the side of the road would have a huge machete, and they would use this massive machete to just chop off the top of the coconut. They would put a straw in it, and then you would drink. Well, the interesting thing is this. There is not typically 16 ounces of water, coconut water, in a coconut. Like 16 ounces of water from, you to drink out of a carton would be more than you would typically drink, like if you were drinking coconut water, and you might eat the meat along with it as well, which I tried to do just for a little bit more nutrition over there too, because I was losing a lot of weight because there wasn't a lot of food at the clinics that I was eating at, which is the truth. We had staff meals that was made up of just rice and some soya and some other products, which were not the best, but it's okay. Okay, back on track. So what I'm saying is this: the 20 grams of sugar is a lot. So unless it's during a workout or after a workout, I can't recommend drinking that much sugar unabated by any fiber. So it's not my recommendation, not something that I would recommend, and it could potentially feed gut bacteria. So those are my recommendations, and I hope that helps. If you enjoy coconut water, great. Maybe have that. Have 8 ounces. Mix 8 ounces of coconut water with 8 ounces of regular water. Or if you're really enjoying it, just drink it after your workout when your body could soak up some of that sugar, or add it to your smoothies. However you like to do it, you can do that. Okay. Jen is up next. Jen's saying, hi there. I had also sent this email to support@stephencabral.com address too and never got a response. I'm very interested in trying out the daily shake, but I need to make sure there is no caffeine, even green tea, in the product. My body is very sensitive to it, and I have a hard time tolerating it at all. I hope to hear from you soon so I can make my purchase. Okay, Jen, the reason we put this question and my team left this question in my podcast for the house call today is that I just want to first apologize if we didn't get back to you. We absolutely do apologize. The amount of email that we get is pretty phenomenal. It doesn't mean that you don't deserve a response back. One thing I will say is we do typically have a star system, and then we take it off when it's been responded back. It could have gone to your spam. With Gmail, just remember, stephencabral.com comes from like our main website, which is a big website. And so they often read that as spam when they read it as a promotional email. So it will go into one of your other tabs, not your main tab on Gmail. The other thing is, I just want to let you know that we're not perfect. I mean, we absolutely try our very best. My customer service team with Marisol and Aaron and Mark and Julia are absolutely fantastic. And if you're on our Facebook group, CabralSupportGroup.com, please feel free to join if you listen to this podcast. It's an open invitation. It's a closed group, but we will absolutely and would be happy to have you. But we're not perfect. We try. We really try our absolute best. Every once in a while, someone's going to slip through the cracks in terms of an email. And when that happens, just email us back or go to this website and ask Cabral. We will make sure that you get taken care of. Remember, if we see it, we're going to respond back as long as it doesn't fall through. And we saw this. We definitely responded back to you, so you should have got the email. But I also wanted to say, just if you listen to the podcast, that there's absolutely no caffeine in the daily nutritional support shake. Absolutely no caffeine. So remember, this is used as a daily shake, and I don't want all the people working with my practice to be taking in caffeine, especially for those people with thyroid, adrenal, and all sorts of other immune and other issues. So no caffeine at all. You might see green tea extract on there, but that is an extract, and it's used actually for phase 1, phase 2 liver conjugation, which helps with detox naturally, and it's a very powerful antioxidant as well. So 0 caffeine, and also just keep in mind that caffeine has to be processed by the liver, so not that great obviously when you're doing a detox. And since this product is also used with the Doctor Cabral detox, of course I would never put caffeine in there, but I appreciate your question. It's a smart question. I'm glad you did ask it. I'm glad I did get to explain this. Now, having said all of that, in about, let's say 16 weeks from this show today, the new formula will be herb-free. So that means even though green tea is a phenomenal product for many people, this will be herb-free. Why am I making it herb-free? My goal is to help the largest amount of people in the world possible. So I want this product to be used for my own kids, and I can't use this product for my children right now. I could, but it's a little too strong in terms of detoxification and what it has in it. And I also can't use it for pregnant women and women that are nursing. And I want to be able to use it for all the populations I work with. So I'm taking out all the herbs, plain and simple, and then I'm putting them in the FM detox, which is part of the Doctor Cabral detox. So you won't miss anything. I'm simply just taking it out of your daily support powder, and that's it. And then also for people with lectin-based based issues and who don't do well with herbs and leaves, and this makes it even better. So always trying to improve. Just in life, we just always keep improving. The product is perfect how it is. I love the product. We've been using it for years. People love it. They get great results. But if I want to tweak things a little bit, I reserve the right to tweak those things. Okay, thank you for the question. And again, apologize that we did not get back to you, that you did not get that email. We will absolutely try better and harder in the future. Lisa is up next. Hi, Dr. Cabral. I take Epsom salt baths 3 times a week using Dr. Teals Epsom salts unscented. I took you up on your recommendation of using San Francisco Salt Company Epsom salts, and I bought a gigantic bag of it. Unfortunately, the 2 times I used it, I got a huge headache about 2 to 4 hours later. I would love to know why that is. I hate that I stare at this beautiful big bag of salt and can't seem to tolerate. By the way, I used 1 to 1.5 cups of salt in the bathwater. Thanks so much, Lisa. Okay. So Lisa, I read this question and I started to laugh a little bit. And the reason is I've never even heard of the company San Francisco Salt Company. So I don't think that you got the recommendation from me. You can absolutely email back in and correct me if I'm wrong. I've never heard of the company, so it'd be hard for me to make that recommendation. But I saw your question, I looked it up, and they have a bunch of different salts. So my first question to you is, let's just make sure it's the Epsom salt one and not the mineral salt one, because the mineral salt one might react differently with your body than the Epsom salt. And then if we confirm that, then great. Why would you get a headache then? Well, it's interesting that you were using the Dr. Teals versus the other one. So I actually recommend the Dr. Teals. So just kind of as we come full circle, my recommendation has been Dr. Teals. I've never even heard of San Francisco. But again, doesn't mean San Francisco is not a great brand. And actually, I looked it up. It looks like a good brand to me. So I'm happy to give them a little plug in the show as well. So magnesium is a vasodilator. So let's get down to it. Epsom salt is not even salt. It's magnesium bound to sulfur or bound to sulfate. Okay? So magnesium is a vasodilator. So what that does is it opens up your arteries, and it allows for greater expansion of blood. Okay, so that's the positive. But at the same time, there's a rare possibility that the increased flow of blood could cause a headache. It's possible. I'm leaving myself open to that possibility as a practitioner of looking at that. Now, the reason why I just say it's possible but rare, usually magnesium is done to kind of calm down tension in the body and relieve headaches. So now when I look at that, that would be hard to imagine, but possible. The second thing is the sulfur, so the sulfate. Sulfate, some people just don't do a great job in terms of their genetics, their genes, and sulfur-based amino acids, and the body's ability to convert those. I'm not going to go into methionine right now and all of these different things that happen with your body with detoxification, because there's no need to talk about that right now. Try to keep this show user-friendly. So what happens, though, is that could actually cause, in and of itself, its own little detox reaction or Herxheimer type reaction in your own body. That's a possibility as well. But now here's the interesting thing. It didn't happen with another magnesium sulfate-based product. So let's look at dosage now. What I'd like you to do is this. You have this big bag, this beautiful bag of this sea salt, right? Or not sea salt, of this Epsom salt. Instead of using the 1 to 1.5 cups that you've been doing, do the same amount of water, but do a half a cup. Use the San Francisco salt. If you still get the same reaction from the half a cup, I'm willing to bet there's something else in that Epsom salt. And I know that it says it's pure pharmaceutical grade Epsom salt. I wonder if it's just where it's taken from. I think this one was taken, I don't know where exactly the sea it was taken from this, or this Epsom salt. So it could be any byproduct that's left with it that you're just not doing well with. So try the half a cup. If it doesn't work, give the bag away to someone else. They'll probably do absolutely fine with it. You go back to your Dr. Teals. Okay, hopefully that answered that question. Cynthia is asking, can you please do a podcast on silent reflux? I was just diagnosed and I'm looking for a natural cure to help me with my symptoms. Thank you. Okay. Plain and simple answer to this is yes. Yes, I will do a show on this. I'm going to do a show that combines GERD, acid reflux, silent reflux, and all of our indigestion all into one show. So I'm happy to help with that. What I would like to do is never leave you kind of just hanging, waiting on what those recommendations might be as well. I don't like to always give big recommendations in the forefront, because if there's a histamine-based issue, if there's bacteria in the gut, I don't want you using this recommendation, which is apple cider vinegar, 2 tablespoons with 6 ounces of water. But if you'd like to try that, you're welcome to. If you feel burning in your stomach, if you feel bloating in your stomach, then you'll discontinue that because there could be bacteria growing in the gut. There could be even yeast, believe it or not, candida, which can go all the way in the stomach up into the esophagus. So we'll work on those. We'll talk about that, but try that apple cider vinegar with a little ginger, or just apple cider vinegar and water. Helps phenomenally for both children, colicky infants, and adults as well. All right, Max is up next. Max is asking, hi, Dr. Cabral. I've been listening to your podcast since last summer, and it's been a great source of information. Thank you, Max, for being a long-time listener. I appreciate that, and hopefully we've still kept your attention, that we're providing enough value. He goes on to say, I've made many changes to my habits after listening to your podcast, including the detox and having smoothies every morning. It's definitely improved my daily life, ! Awesome. Happy to hear that. Thank you for your work. My question is now about asthma and pet allergies. I was diagnosed with asthma at 32. After allergy shots, I was told I'm highly allergic to pet dander, dogs and cats, common house dust mites. Talked about basically going allergen-proofing his house, looking when he's exposed to pets, things like that, and overnight stays. He uses medications like Allegra. Interesting enough, the asthma allergic reaction varies depending on the breed of dogs I'm exposed to. For example, hardly any reaction to Yorkie Terriers, but then get short of breath near a bulldog. Okay. My question is, should I never consider getting a pet again? Or are there any non-medication alternatives to alleviate these allergic reactions so I could potentially get a pet again? Okay. So here's the nice thing, Max. Anyone who's ever wanted a dog, I've actually seen them to be able to get a dog in the future, even with terrible allergies. I've worked with quite a number of people with these specific things. Allergies don't have to be a lifelong thing. I will say, however, innately, some people are definitely do swing that way. They're going to be a little bit more prone to this inflammation that then leads to asthma and allergies, because again, asthma really, it is an adrenal-based issue with norepinephrine, with cortisol production. It is a inflammation-based issue with, again, a lack of cortisol means that you are going to produce more inflammation as well, because believe it or not, people don't realize this, that cortisol actually does help with inflammation in the short term. It just makes it worse in the long term. The other thing is, I want to just give you some things that you can start to do. We have to look at this whole thing called Th1, Th2 immune imbalance. When you're pushed towards Th2, you're going to have more of the allergies, more of the asthma. What we need to do is get you more immune balanced. But the only way we can do that is to stop making you so reactive. So we need to look at those gut-based issues, make sure that there isn't any of that leaky gut intestinal permeability, which basically just spews proteins and bacteria, sometimes yeast, into the bloodstream. And when that happens, your body's always on alert. It's always immune sensitive. And so that will lead you then to more sensitivities in your outside environment. I actually think that this is coming up to answer a future question as well. And what does help for some people are allergy injections or allergy drops. Now, the downside of those, even though they do work, they really do, they work great for a lot of people, is that allergy injections, depending on whose you're using, often contains some type of heavy metal, sometimes aluminum, as a stabilizer. So obviously that's not a great trade-off. The other thing is the sublingual drops. The sublingual drops are now showing to actually be more effective in many cases, and you don't have to give yourself that injection, which is kind of nice. So you can certainly look into that. My other recommendation is this, is look at a hypoallergenic dog. So look for a dog that has hair instead of fur. So a lot of times poodles can be a good choice. The Yorkies that you just mentioned can be a good choice. Portuguese water dogs can be a good choice. So, of course, you'll want to spend some time around that particular breed and then do that. What I recommend is if you give yourself a good 12 months, I mean, you started to get into it. It's been about 6 months now, which is great. Start to get into a little bit more. One more year maybe of work, sealing up your gut, removing, doing more detoxification, keep doing the smoothies, do all of these things. It just takes time. I think your body will be better balanced, and then you'll be able to enjoy the pet more. I just don't want you to have to see you suffer, which can only you remember, allergies will make you exhausted if you let them get exacerbated by constantly being around an allergen. So hopefully that helps. Okay, Lindsay is up next. Hi, I've spent most of the winter mixing interval sessions on the treadmill with weight sessions. I have sore shin, thigh, and hip pain on one side, possible sacroiliac joint, which is, we'll just call it SI joint. It's affecting my training now. I've changed shoes, rested a few days, massage, etc., but not helping. I will get back outside on the road when the weather is better, but in the meantime, what can I do? Is it the treadmill impact? Thanks for your fabulous podcast and help. Here's the thing. I've worked in the fitness and health industry for many years. I've seen a lot of SI joint pain, SI joint inflammation, SI joint discomfort. typically always from impact. So what we need to do, Lindsay, and you absolutely sound like, and I can usually sum people up fairly quickly. Sometimes I'm not always right, but someone who needs exercise in their life, right? You just need to be doing it. So you said you rested for a few days. A few days is never going to let the inflammation subside from this particular joint-based issue. So for everyone who doesn't know what the SI joint is, if you basically look at where your lower back is, like kind of right where the bottom of the spine is, and then you move to the side in both directions, right around the pelvis, you'll find that SI joint. So the ligaments can get inflamed, the tissues can get inflamed around it, and a few days is not going to help. So here's what we have to do. We need to reduce all impact, but I know that you're not going to give up exercise and you're not just going to switch to yoga or Tai Chi or Qigong in the meantime. I understand that. I'm okay with that. So what I want you to do is make sure you're not doing any seated shoulder presses or seated anything that's going to compress your spine. I want you to lay off any really heavy shoulder-loaded based work, like heavy barbell-based squats on the shoulders. You can still do your Romanian deadlifts. You can still do lunges. You can still do step-ups. You can still do those types of things. Just no box jumps, no sprints, and no running. Because yes, you're right. The treadmill does not have the same give and cushion if you're running on trails or softer terrain. But what I'd like you to do is you can keep your cardio going by doing maybe some rowing. You can do some upright bike, and maybe you could do even a little bit of elliptical. Elliptical is not my favorite cardio, but very low impact and could be great for right now. You can just alternate those. And then for your weight training, again, no impact. Lay off the running, lay off all the hard hitting, anything abrasive that where you're pounding. So if your foot comes off the ground, we have to be careful of that exercise. I think that's a good way to leave it right there. Feet off the ground causes impact, causes more SI joint inflammation. Okay. And then my last recommendation is if you can find a good chiropractor who does active release, or you can find someone who's a good muscular therapist in your area, that can help as well, because they can work with you on doing some hip rotations that I don't feel comfortable giving over a podcast to you. Okay. And Jenny is up next, and she is our last question. Hi, Dr. Cabral. Words cannot describe how much you have changed mine and my family's health since I discovered your podcast. Thank you. Thank you, Jenny. I honestly really, really appreciate those words. They mean a lot to me. I've asked questions before regarding my husband and children's health issues, to which your advice worked 100% on each question. Put my health issues off for another time. I'm ready to start feeling better as well. My story is a little bit more complicated than theirs. My main symptoms are hives, usually around my joints, but on any of my limbs and joint pain. So Jenny goes on to talk about, and I will list this always in our show notes. So just if you want to read the whole question, just go to stephencabral.com/287. You can see the entire question. And it's not that I haven't read it. I have, of course, read it. But what I want to talk about is just do it quickly for a second instead of going into the whole story. But Jenny basically gets hives, and she gets hives almost at any situation. She gets hives when she puts on like different socks or ski boots, and the hives appear. She's gone to doctors. They just have been chalking it up as maybe some food issue or rheumatoid arthritis. However, they haven't even done a food sensitivity test, which seems kind of crazy, right? They say it could be a food sensitivity, but they don't run a food sensitivity test. I don't know how that works, but that's disturbing. So, Jenny, yes, I would run a food sensitivity test. I think that's a really straightforward one. Food sensitivity test and organic acid test. If you can afford those, they're going to be highly beneficial. Food sensitivity test, one, you'll get to see the foods that you're sensitive to, of course, so then you can begin to eliminate those. And the big thing is this. You sound like many of the people I work with who have mastocytosis, which is overproduction of mast cells and cytokines and histamines, which creates these hives. So you have to ask yourself then, why do I have this? And typically it's because of increased intestinal permeability, which I just spoke about with our friend Max. And that means that your body has a influx of proteins and bacteria in the bloodstream that the immune system's just wired. It's on overdrive, and it's reacting to other than topical-based touches or other things like that on your skin. It's already sensitized, so the littlest thing can turn it off. The same thing happens to people with multiple chemical sensitivities, MCS. So that's really, really important. Allergies, all of these things go together. very important to look at, well, what is this root cause? And I'm telling you, it's the gut. It's typically the gut. And so when you look at that, you need to make sure that we remove the bacteria, the yeast, anything overgrowth. Now, again, those things can be there. They just can't be overgrown. We'll remove the offending foods. If you can only do one, the food sensitivity is great. I can't decide. They're just two different things. Food sensitivity and the organic acid test, they do two totally separate things. Then you're going to want to seal up that gut wall. Now, for some people, the typical recommendation for hives is activated charcoal. You could try that, but that's not usually from touching something. It's usually you ate a food and then you got hives from that. But you certainly could try activated charcoal. Now, you're welcome to try that. Here's the issue. Charcoal creates histamines. So you just said, okay, well, activated charcoal works. Why would it work? It can kind of seal up whatever that food-based pathogen or bacteria-based pathogen is, and then pull it out of your body. But you also have to make sure you're not constipated. So you need to really get those bowels moving once to twice a day minimum. Once or twice a day is up to 3 times a day is perfect to just make sure literally everything is being removed that shouldn't be in there. But again, if you take the charcoal and it makes your hives worse, it's because you really suffer from histamine-based issues. And so I would love this to be a simple, straightforward answer, but I am giving you the path to take. So I do hope that you look into that. And if you can get a doctor to cover your food sensitivity test, great. They're not going to be able to get your organic acids test covered. You can get our recommendations just by going to StephenCabral.com/store. You can see every lab test we offer right there. I believe is every lab we offer in my practice is right on that website. You get the same benefit of even not being in my practice, but you get my recommendations, you get my write-up, you get my plan, and then you get a 30-minute call with our holistic health coach to walk you through my steps as well. So Jenny, I hope this helps. I know that you can recover from this without a doubt, because this is not meant to be a lifelong thing. Don't worry about that rheumatoid. I mean, really, if they're saying that you have rheumatoid arthritis, all of that can be worked and fixed as well. It really can. You can reverse rheumatoid arthritis. Myself, many other people have moved away from all of those things, and basically you can call it remission, but you just don't have it anymore. It's in remission because you don't have it. So again, that same life, those same goals, all of that can happen for you as well. So stick with it. I know that you'll get it. I know the hives can be really annoying, but in the end, you'll feel great. So thank you everyone for tuning into another Cabral House Call. Really appreciate each and every one of your listens, and I can't wait to bring you our Motivation and Mindset Monday topic tomorrow. Take care.
Did you know that the body really only becomes sick or imbalanced in only 2 ways? Over time, you become deficient in vital nutrients, and you also accumulate toxins internally and from the environment. As those nutrients diminish and you increase your total toxic load, your body then begins to show the first signs of dis-ease. It's actually quite predictable, and the good news is that if we know how you began to fill up that proverbial rain barrel, we also know how to empty it to begin the healing process. I was fortunate enough to learn this ancient healing process from my mentor after suffering from debilitating diseases for close to a decade. It was only when I began to implement these techniques did I finally overcome my illnesses and go on to live a life of energy and vitality that I now enjoy. I'd like to share with you now what I discovered after traveling all over the world and how to combine the best of ancient healing wisdom with state-of-the-art science. Allow me to teach you exactly how I've been able to help over 250,000 people to empty their rain barrel and begin to transform their body and lives into what they've always hoped they could be. To get your copy of the international bestseller, The Rain Barrel Effect, simply go to StephenCabral.com/rain barrel.